All right, our next speaker on the panel was a reporter for the Dallas Morning News who I think was probably, with three other reporters, the closest press people to the president when he was shot. Mary Woodward was her name then. It's Mary Woodward Pillsworth now, and she comes from a suburb or very close to Albany, New York. And I remember Mary's story, what she came back and wrote that day. She came back, incidentally, and said the president's dead, and a lot of people didn't take her serious because she was excited, as we all were. Well, I'll let you tell it, Mary.
Well, first of all, I'm very happy to be here as a representative of my gender. You may notice on your list of participants that I'm an addendum, and that's rather descriptive of my role on that day as well. Well, we were going to stop right in Dealey Plaza on Houston Street, but it was a little crowded there, and the crowds were thin over on Elm Street, so we walked across to Elm and stationed ourselves just down from the school book depository building and waited for the parade to come by. And we were chatting, and as we were talking, I looked up at the grassy knoll. And I said to my friends, I said, that's a very dangerous looking spot to me. It must be a lot of security up there because it looks like a perfect spot if somebody wanted to do something. And then the motorcade came along, and I couldn't believe it. Finally, I'm going to see Jacqueline Kennedy, and she's looking in the other direction. So I yelled and I said, please look this way. And they looked right at us, waved, and at that moment I heard a very loud noise, and I wasn't sure what it was at that point. And I turned to my friends and asked, what was that? Is some jerk shooting off firecrackers? And then I heard the second one. And this time I knew what had happened because I saw the president's motion. And then the third shot came very, very quickly on top of the second one. And that time I saw his head blow open, and I very well knew what had happened by that point. But what I couldn't really believe, as someone else mentioned, was the car had, after that first shot, had come practically to a stop. And later on, in looking back, when I said I could not believe how well-trained Secret Service people reacted so slowly. I would have expected that from ordinary human beings, but I expected that they would have reacted much quicker. Because I've always felt in my mind that I knew the first shot missed. I had never wavered on that, and I see now that it's getting a lot of support. But I said that from day one that the first shot missed. I've never changed my mind on that. I felt the second shot was not a mortal blow. So I felt that had there been proper reaction time, that the man might still be alive today. But immediately after that, we waited just for a few minutes on the street corner, kind of gathering ourselves, and we walked back to the Dallas Morning News. And when we walked in, and I met my supervisors, and I could see the president's been killed, the president's been killed. And nobody really wanted to believe me, and my friends who were with me would not even support me in that. They were saying, well, something happened, he's been shot, there's been shooting, but nobody was willing to say they've killed him. But I kept insisting, he's dead. I know he's dead, or else I hope he's dead, because his head's blown open. Eventually, they started to take me a little seriously. I guess some other reports were coming in, and they said, well, please write it down. Sit down and write it down. So I started writing the story, and I wrote it exactly as I knew it from that moment, without having talked to anyone else, without being influenced by any outside people. I wrote it as I saw it. And to this day, I think I wrote it correctly. I read it again for the first time just in preparation for coming here, and I said in that story that there were 3 shots. I said that there was a pause between the first and the second one. I said the first shot did not hit anything, and I believe that very strongly to this day. The only thing that I guess I got myself in a little bit of controversy about, I said that the shots appeared to have come from behind me and to my right. And I did say seemed to. I didn't say they did come from that direction. Because first of all, I have very great difficulty discerning the direction of sounds anyway. I'm the kind of person on the thruway, when I hear a siren, I panic because I don't know where it's coming from. And secondly, I had spoken to my friends just prior to the event, suggesting that the grassy knoll would be the perfect spot for an assassin. So I said it was somewhat like self-fulfilling prophecy, that when it happened, I naturally expected to have come from where I had predicted it would come from. So in reality, I do believe they did come to the school book depository building, so I get a little bit upset when I get put in the other column. But it made me very interesting to a number of people, including people like Mark Lane and Jim Garrison, who repeatedly tried to contact me and raise the question of why I was not called before the Warren Commission, and the reason why, of course, was because I had said the shots had come from the other direction. But in reality, I never spoke to either of the gentlemen, although they both have indicated, including Mark Lane and the Warren Commission, that he had spoken to me. But I never spoke to Mark Lane in my life, except to say I wouldn't speak to him.
Sometimes that's enough.
I guess so. We learn hard, don't we? But just a little concluding thing. At the end of that day, I went home at my regular time, but we were all so keyed up that I decided I had to go back to the office. So I went back that evening, and as a journalist perspective, it was just amazing. It was like when I was growing up and wanting to be a journalist, it's what I thought journalism was going to be like, with this city with people yelling "copy boy" and running back and forth and bells going off. And that's just like it was that night. And there were people from all over the world there, and I stayed on all night long. I spoke Spanish, so I was translating for people, and I was running copy. And from that, it was another very interesting and exciting aspect of being a journalist on that night. And I don't know if we'll ever see something like that again, but it was truly like the movies. I felt I was back in front page.
Thank you, Mary. I hope we'll never see anything like that again.